I'm going to start with double-sided tape. This is permanent tape I just got off Amazon. This is for a tumbler that's not straight sides, it's not tapered sides, like it's curved here. So normal vinyl's not going to stick correctly. It's going to be difficult to get your lines of this even on here. Now, if it had straight or tapered sides, I do the tape a little bit different. But for this one, we're going to go this way. Now, as you keep going down the cup, your tape is not going to lay perfectly flat. So I am using a thinner tape. I am not using the 1 inch thick because that's just going to be way too thick. And when it goes through this curve here, it's going to bubble up all funny. Now, the other thing that's important is while I'm doing this, sorry, I'm concentrating. While I'm doing this, is I'm not going to burnish my glitter when I put it on. So it's not going to be as smooth at the end, and it is going to take a little bit more to flatten. But I've done it where I've just like taped off sections and I don't really care for it, but you can see here it's bubbling up. So that's just going to get pushed down as well as possible. If there's little creases in here, if you burnished your glitter, you absolutely would see all the little creases. But I am just going to pat my glitter down, and that will help hide those sections. So I am going to continue and do this all the way down to the bottom. Alright, so this has all been pushed down. I am not worried about all these things right now. When the tape comes off, I will be able to push them down a lot smoother, and then that glitter will hide it. So now I'm going to use rubber bands. And I am going to divide this cup into 8 sections. So I need 4 rubber bands. The great thing about rubber bands is that you need an even number of sections. If you had 5 sections, you could have dark, light, dark, light, dark, and your 2 dark sides would line up. And that's not what you want. You need an even number. So rubber bands, we're just cutting it in half. Now, 8 is the easiest because you can do half and then half, and each of those into half. You don't have to worry about lining up something off-centered to get the exact one on the opposite side. That is a lot more difficult. Now these are not going to be perfect, but they will be close. When I'm done with this, I've got my X-Acto knife that I'm going to use to cut my sections. So this is where a tumbler that has even tapered sides is a lot easier. The perfectly straight sides is by far going to be your easiest, but it can be done. Okay, so I have my 8 sections all divided up. I'm going to take my X-Acto knife and very slowly and carefully, I'm going to follow always on one side. So I'm right-handed, so I'm going to put all of them on the right side of every single rubber band. Otherwise, if you have these 2 in and these 2 out, this section will be a little bit bigger. You might be able to notice it, you might not, but just for safe measure, this is how I'm going to do it. Very slowly follow it the best you can. And if you have OCD and are sitting here and going, but it's not exact, it's as close as it's gonna get. So if you're gonna sit here and over criticize it, I strongly suggest getting a straight or tapered edge tumbler and not doing it on these. These can be done, but it's not going to be as exact. So I'm going to go ahead and cut all of those. And then I will take off my rubber bands. I'm going to start with the one that's on top so that it doesn't rip the other ones out along with it, because you don't want it to catch an edge and pull up on the side of your tape. You want some sort of a glitter collection system. Okay, now I'm going to start with black. You always want to start with your darkest color so you can brush off anything that's not stuck and you don't have the black running into the red or the white, because that's a lot more noticeable than the red running into the black. So I'm going to use 2 rows so that each section looks like a square. And for this first one, I'm just kind of picking a section to start with. I'll use my weeding tool to get rid of the backing. Now, if there was a great big gap in between, like there's a little bit of one here, you can always go over that with another piece. It doesn't have to be very big, but you can always lay another piece of double-sided tape in there. All right, I'll sprinkle that on. And again, I'm gonna just tap it down. I'm not gonna burnish, because I don't want to see all the creases in the tape. You can take a dry brush, brush the excess off, and I brush that square off too. Anything extra in there, but it is fully covered. Now the next section is going to be mixed, so I'm going to skip 2 pieces and go down to this one. You can see here there's some bumps in the tape, but when we do this, they are going to be hidden. I could kind of see it, so I just pushed it down and it's gone. It looks more like just bumps of glitter. Skip these 2, come down to this one. Skip 2, we'll get this section on the bottom. Now some of these other ones that are popping up, you do want to push the backing back onto the tape because you don't want the glitter to seep under the backing. Like it did on that one, but I think that I lucked out and that was actually a section. This one, however, was supposed to be mixed glitter. It's just not staying down, so just be careful for those. And then I'll try to lightly do this. And just push it on and kind of roll my finger to tuck anything under. up. So now in between here, we're gonna have mixed black and red. And then next to the black on these sides, we'll have black and red. In the middle, the kitty corner, is gonna be solid red. So I'm gonna skip this whole row, come over to the next row and do the exact same cross sections. Mixed glitter, it looks really dark in there, but I tend to do a little bit more red than black, otherwise I think it just looks a little more on the dark side. But I have this saved from the last time I did this tumbler. So now I'm going to finish off these rows that are halfway done. I try to kind of keep it in the middle, but there also shouldn't be sticky sticking out of the black yet. That should be covered. So then I can just brush, again, all of it off, and I've got my nice section there. Let me know in the comments what you think of this method. If you're going to try it, I want to know what colors you're going to do. I've thought about doing silver and purple, or orange and black. I don't know. Mixing it up for seasons. Plaid's just always good. Now my next row, so I did it in between the blacks here. I'm also going to do it in between the blacks going this way. I'm going to do this top one. There's a lot more mixed sections than black or red sections. And like I did my black, I'm going to skip down to this section so we're in between the blacks here. This is going on thicker than I'm intending. It's just kind of coming out that way. Thankfully, it's not making a difference on my tumbler. And in between the blacks and this one. Now anything that's left, I am going to do red. Should have a nice plaid when I am done. Got my nice sections showing up here. finish those up. Now that all my sections are done, I'm going to use the E6000 spray to seal my sections. I like using a spray just so that I'm not brushing. I mean, I've brushed this all together. It's not going to mix, but for my plaids I still use the spray. I'm not going to spray it so much that it's dripping all over, but my glitter will start soaking this up instead of my first few layers of bright tone. If you do have a heavy hand and it's starting to drip, you can stick it on your turner for a little bit. But I'm going to let it go 20-30 minutes, and then I'm going to smush it in parchment paper. So now I've got my parchment paper, and I am going to roll it as tight as I can. I'm actually going to roll it off the edge here a little bit. Because it's not a flat surface, my table isn't going to hit this in the middle. Roll it down, trying to flatten that glitter, and then the glitter will also soak up the E6000 and my first few layers of bright tone for it to be soaked up. Alright, so now I am going to do that 3 times and continue on to my bright tone. And here it is, ready for my top coats. And my lines are pretty straight up and down. I don't have a funny where I tried to line things up and it gave me a funny wedge at the end. That looks good all the way around. And I can go on to my clear coats. So I use Crystalac, I will link that below. I use the Bright Tone.